Welcome to Staples.
Staples guy, I just got to town and I need a presentation printed for a big meeting tomorrow.
Well, Staples has everything you need to print, scan, and fax.
Great. Oh, just got a text. The home office made changes to the presentation.
No problem. You can access your files from a USB, email, or the cloud.
And the meeting isn't tomorrow, now it's today.
Our machines are self-service, so there's no waiting.
And it's not here. Now it's in Ebensburg.
I hear it's lovely this time of year.
Print, scan, fax, and copy at Staples. Your office away from home.
Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Life's Twist Show with your hosts, Terry Robinson, Lance Conley, and Eric Harrison.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. This is Eric Harrison, and welcome to the Life's Twist Show. And we are looking forward to continuing our discussion about AAU competition. So right now, I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to bring in my partners and the guys that help to keep this ship rolling and helps to keep everything together. First and foremost, this dude is always the best. He's always on top of things, and he always brings a fresh perspective. Lance Conley. What's up, Lance? How you doing this evening?
Hey, good evening, Eric. How you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing great. It's good to hear from you, man. And then, of course, I always say this last, but definitely not least, my buddy Terry Robinson. I have known him for a lot of years. If I tell you how many years, I would be really dating myself. But if you've seen a picture of me, you've seen the gray hair, so you know how old I am. So anyway, enough of that. But say what's up, Terry.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
All right, so we're going to jump right into this. You know what, Lance, I think I'm going to let you go ahead and kick it off, man, because I got a feeling you got a lot to say about this. And callers, by the way, before we jump into it, I want to give you guys our call-in number. And our call-in number is 323-642-1579. That's 323-642-1579. We want to hear from you. AAU is such a big thing in our society right now. It is connected to so many people, and we want to hear what your stories are. We want to hear about your experiences, and even if you have questions about it, give us a call, and we will be able to talk about it. So, Lance, go ahead. Take it away.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I want to start off the show by just kind of sharing a story. Basically, last week we had someone call in. They kind of talked about the children playing AAU sports, and one of the things that came out of that is we had a chance to follow up, and she actually started to share her personal story, and that's what this is all about, an opportunity for people to share their experience. She went on and played, ran track in college, and then she just said she felt so much better because she had an opportunity, because no one really wants to talk about the downside of sports. Everybody wants to talk about the positives. So I just wanted to share that, and that's something that really came out as far as something really positive from that show. And, again, I think that's what we're trying to do, is provide that opportunity for people to share their stories. But, yeah, as far as AAU and, the sports, just following up from last week, just get the opportunity to think about it. And a lot of times, things that we talked about last week is, some of the negatives and, some of the positives. And, there is, so many positives to playing sports. The competition, the camaraderie, the opportunity to sometimes for people to get out of the situations they're in and, maybe get their education and different things like that. And then we talked about some of the negatives of AAU and, how it's big money. Sometimes the kids get exploited. And, the parents sometimes really push their kids to be something. Sometimes they're not. So there's a lot of different aspects to the AAU stuff. And just wanted to, touch on that a little bit tonight. And hopefully we have some callers come and discuss that. And I'll let, Terry kind of share his thoughts from last week and our thoughts moving forward on the AAU scene. So go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, like you said, Lance, it was a pretty good show. It's always good when you can help somebody, and I think we helped a couple of people that night. People that have younger kids getting into sports and starting out in AAU. It's an experience, an exposure. So all those things are good, and so a lot of times, you need somebody who's been through that. And we had some young men that are currently playing college ball call in and share their experience with AAU. So that was very helpful. So, we always want to provide some kind of insight, and make sure that we're trying to, for one, protect our kids and make sure that they have a positive experience, even though I know that won't always be the case, but at least we can put a dent in it by doing this type of work or this type of a show. And so it really felt like we just ran out of time because we had a lot of callers. We really didn't get a chance to get through all the stuff that we wanted to talk about, so that's why we did a follow-up show. So we're hoping that, we get some more people calling in and some more experiences and good and bad, so we can put that information out there so people can make better decisions in terms of, their experience with sports and parents as well with, putting their kids in other people's hands, you know what I mean? You have to trust somebody, and we want to make sure that we are informed and that we do the research that we need to do before we just release our kids to anybody or any program just because it looks good or sounds good. So,
and that's, we talk about the listeners learning things, and, one of the things I learned last week that I wasn't aware of, because, in Iowa, in the Des Moines area, kids actually try out, and they actually pay to try out for AAU teams, for on a Saturday from 8 to noon or whatever. So get out of basketball, and parents will pay $200 to try out for one of the AAU teams. And what I heard a couple of callers calling in saying is that in Chicago it's a little bit different. That actually they go find the kids versus the kids go find the programs. So which I thought was kind of interesting because I think one sets up, because if I'm a parent maybe in a bigger city or where, people are being recruited by, finding them on the playgrounds or whatever, then it would be a little bit more scary because you're not sure or as familiar with, who is this person recruiting my kid? What's the AAU team like? And that's what one of the parents did that called in and kind of shared, what should I be looking for? What's a good thing about the AAU team? Do I look for fundamentals? What kind of team? What kind of coach? So it is a learning process for all of us. But, like I said, in the Des Moines area, parents actually pay to have their kids try out for AAU teams, which to me is more of a money situation. And, again, we have big, big money in AAU sports. And I think go ahead, Eric.
Oh, no. I just switched over, man. I really wasn't interrupting you. Go ahead and finish. I'll wait until you finish. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was finished up. So I'll just let you go ahead and jump in there and kind of share your thoughts from last week.
Well, when you talk about the cost, you know what I mean. A lot of those kids in Chicago that are playing on these elite teams, there's a lot of them come from, I want to say poverty, you know what I mean? But they have some excellent skills, and that's why people go out searching for them. And these people that are looking for them, they already have some type of resources in place, the Nike contracts and the Adidas contracts or Under Armour, wherever. These are places where they're going looking for that next NBA player. And so that's why they seek these guys out. I don't even think they even try what they do in Iowa because they just know it's not gonna work. The resources are not there.
Yeah.
And people are just not going to pay. In Iowa, when I lived there, I was amazed at that. How many teams? Because what they'll do is they'll make as many teams as you want. If you're going to pay for it, we'll have 100 teams. And they just have different levels of them. But because they're only concerned about their kids playing and getting some experience and exposure, I don't think a lot of them are thinking about the NBA or going overseas. You might have a handful of kids that are thinking about that. But I think for those kids, it's more about the experience than anything else, the exposure. And if they get a college scholarship, they're satisfied with that. On the other hand, a lot of these kids coming from these inner cities, man, they're trying to figure out a way to take care of themselves and their family. And so it's a different ball game.
And my question would be, because to me that kind of opens it up, because if I'm an AAU person and I'm recruiting you and I make a connection with you and your family at, say, 8, 9, 10 years old, how much freedom does that particular family or kid have a chance to move around? Do they feel like they coach or that AAU team something in the future? You know what I mean? So obviously it's and then you have the high school coaches that are involved in it too. You know what I mean? Where you got the AAU coach that builds a relationship early on with that kid, and then they go to play a high school ball where they might not have as good a relationship with that coach. So it might actually make it a little bit more difficult for the high school coach. So there's just so many different dynamics involved in the AAU scene, and especially when you have a kid that's really talented, because everybody wants kind of a piece of that action.
Well, I can't speak from my own experience. When I was coming out, AAU wasn't as big as it is now. But like I was talking about a week ago, the show At All Costs, it was talking about what we're talking about and actually showing what happens in those situations. And you're right. A lot of coaches do struggle with their players after they get involved with these AAU teams, especially when they are on an elite team, because their thinking is, I'm going to college and all the college coaches are going to be at the AAU tournaments. So that's what's important to me. High school basketball, if I had to make a choice, I'd rather do AAU than high school basketball. So that's the mindset of some of the kids and some of the parents of the kids, because the parents are looking for their kids to get scholarships or even possibly become a professional athlete. And so they're kind of weighing their options and say, hey, this is more important. If you have to sit out, you're going to sit out high school. And we're going to play AAU if you have that type of skills and ability, because that's what's going to get you to the next level. And based on how they showed it, that's what it looks like on the program. Me, I always think, if you're good enough and you're out there putting forth the effort, somebody will find you. I just believe that. You can play on AAU teams or wherever, but if you're really good enough, you put in the work and you have a little luck, you can still make it. Now, I don't think that it's the only way you can make it is through AAU, and that's kind of how it's presented. If you're not involved in these elite programs or such and such, you don't have a chance of making it. You might have a slimmer chance, but how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it?
Right.
That's my question.
Yeah, Terry, one of the things, too, that I brought up, because we're talking a lot about basketball, but one of the things that I did as well, I did some extra research, and I began to look at the other AAU sports. So I even went and looked at AAU hockey, volleyball, lacrosse, and I began to look at all these things, and I wanted to see what some of the parallels are. Now, number one, AAU basketball is the biggest money maker. So let's just be, real about that. Most sponsorship, most money flowing through it. So that's why it gets the most attention, and that's why, they try to get the biggest and the best in there so that people's sponsorship dollars, or the dollars that flow through, the corporate dollars that flow through all of the shoe companies and apparel companies, they get the biggest and the best wearing their stuff. We saw that at all costs. But also what I'm finding is, as I do some research, AAU lacrosse, AAU volleyball, they even have AAU beach volleyball. All of those different sports, which are a part of AAU competition, they have big-time sponsorship as well. AAU soccer, all of it. And what I'm finding is that the AAU organization, which is basically an amateur athletic union, it's supposed to be amateur, right? It is very similar, and you guys can talk about this with me, it is very similar to the NCAA, because the NCAA is supposed to be what? An amateur sports competition association, but all these billions of dollars, and I can almost say that AAU has quite a bit of money flowing through it as well. And none of the participants really see it. They say, hey, okay, you'll get exposure and the fact that somebody will see you and you'll get the feeling of competition. But, man, guys, there is so much money that flows through this stuff. And also recruiting with lacrosse, with volleyball, with hockey and everything else. many times the AAU organizations and the coaches are involved with those kids recruiting as well. So AAU across the board is starting to replace high school on the sports level. It really is. And Terry, we keep mentioning that movie At All Costs, but I'm telling everybody who's listening, please go see that movie or that presentation on Netflix, At All Costs, and you will understand and get a feel for what AAU basketball is about, how it is really controlling our sports, and really see how people are really using that to even circumvent the old system that we always had. But back to this question that I have for you guys. Do you see the AAU in the same light as the NCAA as far as the amount of money and the control that it has in our sports today? Terry, I'll start with you first.
Well, you know, I'm just going back a little bit because what's happening is, you know, you have corporations that are recognizing that, hey, if we sponsor some of these groups, and especially if these guys get these teams become good, guess what? They have our shoes on their feet, our clothes on their back with our labels, Nike or Adidas. Guess what? We can make a ton of money because people are following these guys and looking up to them. You know what I mean? And so these corporations, Nikes, Adidas, they figuring this out. And they say, man, this is a whole nother market. And when you compare the two between that and high school, guess what? There's less regulations probably with AAU than it is with high school. So they can make more money with AAU as opposed to high school. You know, because I don't know how many do they give high schools contracts? You know, Adidas,
yes,
Nike.
They do.
I don't know.
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean?
they do. Yeah, they do. Terry, this is how it goes. Because I was blessed to remember I was at Kenwood High School with our friend Marlo Finnan, and also I had an opportunity to be at other high schools in Chicago. So this is basically how it goes. In Chicago, if you're winning, they're gonna give you a contract, okay? And you have to be consistently winning, like over 2 or 3 years, right? So if you're winning over 2 or 3 years, Nike coming at you strong, because Nike's like the big boy, okay, of this. Then you have Adidas, which in the Chicagoland area, they really aren't that strong, okay? And then you have Under Armour and, you know, whatever else, but really those are the main three. The schools get sponsored big time. If you're a big time school like a Simeon, which is on a national level, Whitney Young on a national level, and then sometimes other schools break into the national level where they get ranked, then they put more material into the school, and then sometimes money is given to the school through that public school system. Sometimes that gets to them through that. Also, the coaches that are involved on those teams, they wind up getting hooked up on the major camps that go on during that summer. If you watch At All Costs, man, you know what? That guy from At All Costs needs to make a donation to LET Group. Hey, our website is www.letgroup1.com, by the way. And yes, we do have a place where you can give us money because we're giving this dude a lot of love. But anyway, for real. But the documentary is amazing. But Terry, that Chris Paul camp that they went to, right? They have one for LeBron James. They have all these different camps that these major players go to. Well, the head coaches of these teams get invited to these camps, and they get paid for it, paid nicely for it. And the trips are free. They don't pay for their hotel accommodations, and they get paid for these trips. Also, on top of that, they get the latest and the greatest gear to come to their homes a lot of times. Okay, not to the school, but sometimes it comes to their house, and they get to regulate this gear. So, again, we're kind of talking about this thing, AAU, NCAA, same flow. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the answer to your question, Terry. So you could go ahead.
Yeah, so you know, when I look at all those different things, man, and even in that documentary, once again, he said, is this really amateur athletics? You know, is it? You know, so who's to say that it isn't? You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of money going through everybody's hands except the players. Once again, just like in college basketball, like you spoke of earlier. And you know, is it wrong or is it right? Because I'm not saying either or. You know, as I look at the whole scope of everything, I'm trying to figure out if it's right, if it's wrong. Because at the same time, you look at that particular team, as of 2013, he had 29 guys from his team to make it to the NBA. Like I said, I don't want the whole focus on basketball, but the reality of it is this is 29 millionaires that this guy's created. Now, would these same 29 people have those opportunities in the business world doing anything else? Probably not. So from that standpoint, then most of them obviously had to go to college in order to achieve that. So when you look at all these different things, and I can only imagine how many kids that have gone to college that played through that program. So when you look at it from that standpoint, it's really positive. It's really positive. Now, the downside of it is these other guys that, don't get the opportunity or just don't pan out. What happens to those guys? What happens to them? You know what I mean? So, you have to look at both ends of the spectrum. Yes, Lance.
And that's my concern. I think anytime you have that much money flowing down, because we've seen what money has done to college sports already, and if it infiltrates down to the high school level, and it sounds like it already is, if I'm a basketball coach or a school, does it really become about the kids, or does it become about winning? Because if I have an opportunity to secure a big contract with Nike or Under Armour or Adidas, man, I stopped caring about the kids. I just care about winning, and I'll do whatever it takes to win. Whether push some kids aside or go out and recruit, or pass a little money to a family, say, hey, have your kid come over here and play, and that's how a lot of those situations get corruption kind of leaks in a little bit, because and that's what it is. It's just a sport, and that's I think when Terry you talk about it in your book, it's just a game, and how much we emphasize and how much we put into that, and really in the end, who suffers? The coach might get some money, the school might get some money, but what does the kid gain out of it? He might hopefully get a college education.
Exactly.
But,
and a pair of gym shoes.
Yeah, exactly. And if that kid is a great player, the next thing you know, that high school coach is wanting to try to follow him to college and try to parlay that into his career. So it's just a lot of things that are happening that I don't think is really good for the sport. It isn't really good for kids. It's good for people lining their pockets with money, ultimately. But that's my view on it.
Yeah. So
but
guys, let me say this too, guys. So now we went from the college level, we went down to the high school level. Now let's break it down to the grammar school level. Terry, you can attest to this. When you are in grammar school in a city like Chicago or anywhere in the country, and you happen to be a kid who has grown a little bit more than the other kids have grown, right? Or you're at a place where you're a little bit bigger than everybody else, okay? And things are, and you good. They consider you good as an 8th grader. Terry, you can attest to this. What happens in Chicago when this 8th grader is about to go to high school? Everybody wants them. They coming at them.
You're going to be recruited.
I'm not saying who they are, but, man, they trying to recruit them, right, T?
That's how it works. That's
how it works. And AAU plays a part in that. AAU plays a huge part of that because, Lance, what you just said, it doesn't become about the kids in the school getting better and you're building a team from that. What it becomes is now we just got to get the best players so that we can get the shoe contracts, we can get this, we can get that, and we can maintain our winning ways so that the money can keep pumping through. So, again, this affects the kids as well to a certain extent. Terry, I'm sorry, man. I cut you off. Go ahead and say what you're going to say.
That's okay. No, we're just talking, man, because, I'm reading the book, Furious George. I didn't pay for the book. I got it from the library. But, he kind of made similar points. He said, the NBA is a player's game, is a player's game. And he said, and this is how you can tell. He said, when you hear LeBron James, it's LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Or it's Steph Curry in the Golden State Warriors. He said, now, when you go to college, it's a little different. Now it's a coach's game because now it's Mike Krzyzewski and the Duke Blue Devils. Or it's Calipari and the Kentucky Wildcats. You know what I mean? So the same thing is happening with the AAU. You know what I mean? And when it comes to these high school teams and all these different things, and that's how you know that the corporate has gotten involved in it, and there's a lot of money going through it, because it becomes more about that one player and what they can do for this corporation. And when it's all said and done, because that's who's backing all this stuff, and all these models it's shaping up and it's looking exactly the same. And if we can see it for what it is, we wouldn't struggle so much with what it is, because I don't think it's going to go in reverse. It's going to change. It's going to continue going that direction, because what are these corporations more concerned about? Making money. So the more shoes and outfits they can put on people's back, guess what? The more they're going to make and the more their shareholders are going to make. I mean, we can cross over and start talking about pharmaceutical companies, the cigarette companies. You know, these people that are marketing these things, they know this stuff is bad for you, but guess what? It's not about that. It's about, okay, I got people investing and they expecting to make money, and so we'll kill some people in the process to make this money. It's sad to say that, but that's the structure that we live in terms of corporate America and our society and how it's set up.
Exactly.
And so basketball or these sports are set up the same way. And I think most of us are just not used to it. And it's coming so fast, and it seems like it happened overnight, but it's here, and it's here to stay, because people are making a lot of money. And if you got kids that are playing AAU at first grade, second grade, third, what is that about?
Exactly.
I mean, you know, think about it. First, second, third grade, I mean, it's cute, but guess what? Those first graders, second graders, and third, they wear Nikes and Adidas and Under Armour too. You know, and they get hooked on these brands. They get hooked on these brands as little kids, and they wear these brands throughout their whole life. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's like, yeah, the younger we get them hooked, the more we stand to make off of them, because that's what we're trying to do.
Exactly. And Terry, by the way, when that happens and you get them kids involved, again, you got to realize the thread and the line that runs all the way through. Like I said, it runs through high school. I mean, and I'm just pulling off of what I saw as I was coming up. But man, you know what's up, T. We saw the high schools. You saw CVS. I saw Simeon. Lance, you probably did the same thing with high schools in your area. You saw these kids wearing this great stuff. They was looking good. And you aspired to be those kids. So then if you ever get a chance to be a part of this stuff, sometimes the love of the game is being fueled by all of this stuff that you see, all this money you see, all these clothes, all these shoes. You know what I'm saying? It's like almost muddling up the waters of the love of the game. You see what I'm saying? The love of the game is getting muddled up a little bit because of all these other things that are there. And then when times get tough, as you guys know, all that other stuff fades away. But the only thing that will ever keep you in the game is what? How much you love the game itself. Go ahead, Lance. You was about to say something.
Oh, no, I that's some great points tonight, because it all makes sense, because one of the things I've heard is that all of a sudden you have unrealistic expectations for a kid that's 7, 8 years old. The parents are spending $500-$600, how much are they to spend for AAU, and they already expect them to be something, and you're already setting that expectation. And one of the things Terry talks in the book is, man, you program these kids to compete. You can program these kids to win. You can compete to be the best. All these different things. And what's going to be happening when they feel like they disappoint their parents? Already in 3rd, 4th grade, they might lose, and they're looking over at, I disappointed my dad and mom or my brother and sister, and they're already being exposed to that at a time where they shouldn't be exposed to that, because, like Terry says, their brains are still developing, and automatically you're programming or putting information into their little brains that you're not good enough. You got to be better, and that creates problems in the future. And because what Terry was saying, I was in shock when the Barnstormers is the top AAU program in Iowa, and I was just reading this week that they're just starting up the 2nd and 3rd graders AAU teams. And I was reading on the internet, the parents are talking about kids dribbling behind their back, taking step back jumpers and stuff like that. And like I said, it's all cute, but ultimately, people get affected, and sometimes in a bad way. And sometimes I don't think parents realize it. And that education piece is so important, because I know, Terry, you're going to be presented with that issue pretty soon, because you have a son that, how old is your son now? Is he 8?
The oldest is 9.
9? Yeah, he's the oldest 9. And I'm sure that AAU program is going to be calling you here pretty soon. So how are you going to handle that?
Well, bottom line is this. I know my kid. I spend a lot of time with him. And I know his personality. So that's why people always ask, you haven't gotten him playing yet? No, because he's not ready. Now, he's starting to say he wants to play. So if he wants to play, hey, that's fine. But definitely I'm going to be there, especially at this age. I'm going to be there walking hand by hand. I might be the coach's nightmare, or maybe not. But I'm going to definitely be there, to support both sides, you know what I mean? Because I don't want him getting caught up in the hype, If for one, if you're going to play because you want to play, have fun, make sure you're working hard because it's carries over in life. That's how I see it, because to me, I could care less if he played or not. It'd be nice to see him play and be productive, but if he decides, I don't really want to do this, I'm okay with that. Especially when he can understand, don't be looking at what somebody else is doing. Focus on what you're doing or what you want to do. And then we'll be able to tell based on your if you're in the gym and you want to keep going to the gym and shooting, I'm not going to be telling you have to go to the gym. No. If I see you going in early and staying late, I say, hey, he got potential. And we'll keep working it. But if I see you just want to go to the games, you don't want to put the time in, I'm not going to push you. Because you don't want it bad enough. It can't come from me, man. I studied a lot of professional athletes, and it comes from it. It's something internal that drives those guys, man. And a lot of times, some of them come from nothing. Some of them come from a lot of pain, and so that's what drives them to escape from reality. My son, based on his upbringing, is going to have to come from being competitive because he haven't had to struggle for anything. You know what I mean? So, and then he needs to understand the guys that he's going to be playing against. They're going to have a different agenda. They're going to have a different motivation. What's going to drive you to compete with these guys? You know what I mean? So I'll be talking about those kind of things. I'm more curious about, hey, you having fun than anything else at this point. You're just 9 years old. People, he hasn't played on the team yet? No. He's 9 years old. He's too busy having fun. If you're good, you're going to be good. I remember one of the best players I ever known was Nick Anderson. Nick Anderson didn't start playing organized basketball till he was in high school. This is Nick Anderson. Played over 10 years in the NBA and was great. So, I mean, and I knew another guy that was like that. Cato just played at Iowa State. Cato didn't start playing basketball till he was in high school. Akeem Olajuwon didn't start playing ball till he was in high school. So what makes these guys today different than those guys? It's all about, right timing, a little luck, and if you how bad you want it.
Exactly.
So,
guys,
that's a long answer, Lance, but
yeah. Hey, guys, this is a great conversation. We are rolling, man. Look, we're going to take a quick break. We've got a couple of callers on the line. We've got a guest on the line, and we're going to sit here. We're going to take a quick break. And then we're going to come back as we continue this great discussion about AAU, the good and the bad that's associated with it. So we'll be right back.
Sports is a common denominator in the lives of people everywhere. Our celebration of sports creates an environment that gives athletes an amazing experience that enhances their lives. Athletes work long and hard to be the best at that thing that gives them so much elation. But what happens after the athlete is done? When a circumstance comes up and they're no longer able to play that sport? Whether it's the high school athlete who doesn't get that scholarship to go to the next level, or the college athlete that doesn't get picked in the draft, or even the professional athlete who now has to retire and find something else to do day to day. Many athletes struggle with this transition from competition to regular everyday life. This transition causes trauma, and that trauma often leads to depression, anxiety, anger, and even health issues. Author Terry Robinson noticed this problem and researched it and came up with the book, Athlete Transition Stress. This book deals with the subconscious programming and conditioning that goes on in an athlete's mind while participating in a sport. So if you or anyone you know are dealing with these issues related to transitioning from a sport, pick up the book, Athlete Transition Stress, and share your story in our global community online at www.letgroup1.com. Athlete Transition Stress is available on Amazon.com and on the LET Group website at www.letgroup1.com.
Athlete transition stress. Everything that we're talking about tonight, everything can be the root of athlete transition stress. One of the ways to deal with athlete transition stress is to see where it came from, why you feel the way that you feel, and then how you're going to get over those feelings. So please pick up Terry Robinson's book, Athlete Transition Stress. It will be a great piece for you to read. If you have someone in high school, give it to them, have them read it. If you have someone in college, give it to them, have them read it. And even if you have an athlete who's played at the professional level, any level, have them read this book. It will be a blessing to them. So now, Terry, I'm going to hand it over to you, man. We actually have a guest on the phone that you kind of had a discussion with earlier about the AAU situation, and we want to go ahead and bring him in. So go ahead, T.
Well, this is part 2 of the show last week. We got to talking a lot, man, and talking about the younger kids and how they were affected positively and negatively by AAU. And one of the subjects that we wanted to talk about was the whole comments that Kevin Garnett made, a week or two ago about AAU and some of the younger guys screwing up what the league really represents. And so, we didn't really get a chance to talk in detail about that particular subject because we just got caught on some even more positive stuff. And so, when I heard what he said, I didn't take it personal. Like a lot of the comments that I read from a lot of other people. I was just trying to understand where KG was coming from because I know KG was somebody who benefited from AAU. And I think that's what a lot of the coaches that responded to him had a problem with. They would make comments like, well, he wouldn't be where he was if it wasn't for AAU. And I don't think that's what KG was saying, or Kevin Garnett, for the people that don't know who KG is. I think he was just saying that, a lot of these guys come in different than the way he came in, because everybody knows that he was the hardest working guy on their team, and he was the superstar of the team. But that never deterred him from working hard. He worked extremely hard. And so I think he sees these younger guys doing just the opposite. And I wonder how much is that, the contract that they're getting today versus what they got last year, I wonder how much that comes into play too. Because I hear Barkley and all these other guys, they always comment about what these guys are getting, what they're making compared to what they put out. So I think all those things are kind of meshed together, and I think Kevin Garnett is trying to make reference to some of that type of stuff, that these guys don't come in working hard. They're more concerned about their brand and this kind of thing. And once again, it's the corporate structure, and these guys coming in with a different idea of what the game is about. It's about, production and making money, and making as much money as you can up front. So, I wanted us to kind of explore that a little bit, and me and Irv, we talked a little bit about it. He has a lot more insight than I do when it comes to AAU and professional basketball players because, he's been in that environment for many years. And so, instead of me just running my mouth, I want to at least get you set up, man. Can you share some of your valuable insight with us? And if you have a parent that possibly have a kid coming up in that type of environment, what kind of advice would you give them?
Wow. Well, I guess I'm gonna start from the piggyback from Kevin Garnett's sense of entitlement, and when I first heard it, and I remember him saying it to Kevin McHale, I completely agree because I understood where he was coming from. I think people did not take it, and I know the AAU coaches got offended by it because they felt that you needed AAU because you would not be where you are. And in all honesty, I hate when that word is said. It's a necessary evil, but it's not the all be all the end all, because AAU does not make a player be who he is. And I always hate when as a coach, and I've been coaching a long time, when a player or coach works some kids out and he gets them in the gym and he takes credit for their success as if he is the reason why that kid is who he is today. I always say the same thing. If I'm coaching and that's my job and that's my title, my job is to bring out the best in this kid. That's what I'm paid to do. So when the kid becomes successful, I don't need to jump in front and put my big S out there and say, man, I'm the reason why this kid is great. My job is I open up the gym, I set up some instructions, and it's necessary for the kid to follow my instructions if he wants to be good. And he entails I correct, I instruct, and I coach and I teach, and this kid becomes better. I did what I'm supposed to do. So now the kid steps out and he becomes great. I'm not trying to say, oh, I'm great. I'm the great guru coach to make this kid who he is. The kid has the talent. All I did was help bring out that talent. So I hate when people say that. And what happens with players is when they get to the NBA, that sense of entitlement comes in from being in the AAU. You know, kids go from, and I think I heard a little of y'all talking about kids started in kindergarten and grammar school. Well, these kids, when they get in college, they already are set up kind of semi as a brand when they leave high school because they didn't play the EYBL or they haven't played on the Nike level or the Adidas level or the Under Armour level. So they go to the 1 year of college. By the time they're in the NBA, a shoe company has already had a contract kind of set up for them made. So they're coming in the NBA with a 5-year, $25 million a year shoe contract before they even sign the NBA contract. They haven't even played a game. They haven't even set foot in the NBA arena. And that's the sense of entitlement that Kevin Garnett was kind of saying. These are what the kids are expecting. So when they get this, they walk into a NBA locker room with vets. They feel, I'm on the same level, playing level field with you because I'm making more money than you, and you've been in the league 5, 10, 15 years. And that sense of entitlement becomes greater for the kid because now what used to be where NBA, the vets would kind of haze the rookies, make them do certain things in their rookie year. These guys now like, I'm not doing it. I'm making more money than you. You should be doing this. And that's kind of a sense of entitlement for them thinking, I'm in the league now. The league has been waiting on me. That's why I got this $25 million contract. So, I mean, I kind of jumped to two places. I just wanted to jump on the Kevin Garnett thing, and I want to make sure that I understand that's what Kevin Garnett is basically saying. He wasn't saying AAU was bad. He just saying that AAU has kind of mentally interrupted the game of basketball with kids and made them feel when they get to the NBA, if they're good enough from Big Ben McDonald's All-America, that the NBA is waiting on them. So now I'm entitled to be it. So
but
all
is
the things I'm expecting
is it AAU or is it the corporation behind it that's making it that way?
Well, I mean,
you know
obviously,
what I mean?
The corporation is going to hide behind the AAU tournaments because they can't be out there and say we're Nike because all these kids are considered amateurs, and that's why it's called AAU, Amateur Athletic Association. So long as they hide behind the AAU label, they can do anything, and that's all they're trying to do because they build a relationship with the EYBL, and I know Eric know about this very well. The EYBL league is a Nike league. They have maybe 30-some teams from across the United States with all the top players from each region. You know, you got teams, and I give you one, you got teams from Chicago, 2 teams from Chicago, and they have all the top players from Chicago, and now they take kids from other states who are not playing with another team, maybe from a region, and they'll put them on the Chicago team. And the sense of entitlement is They give them all this Nike gear. They give them all this Nike stuff. They pay for their travel. They get there. They put them in the best hotels. They bust them around. They bring them into the arenas. They put them in front of all these college coaches every week up until they get the top teams, and then the top teams go to the Atlanta Peace Jam in July, and then them teams compete for a tournament. And all this Nike stuff is given. They give more Nike stuff to these kids than they give to the NBA players. So if I'm a 15-year-old kid, I'm walking around with any pair of Nike shoes that I want, Nike gear that I want. I can get it anytime I want. Of course I'm going to have a sense of entitlement because Nike's been taking care of me since I was 13, 14, 15 years old. So when I get to the league, what do you expect? Oh, I've been getting that stuff all my life. So that entitlement, they feel it belongs to them because the NBA's been waiting on me because I just couldn't get there because I wasn't old enough, or I had to go through high school and I had to go 1 year of college. So they feel like, man, the NBA's been waiting on me. So that is what I really believe that Kevin Garnett was saying. On the flip side of it, I agree with y'all saying it is the Nike Corporation, and I'm a Nike guy, so I don't want to bash them as if they're bad, but it's a necessary evil that's out there that's allowing all this to happen. And as long as money is out there and they're making money off of it, they're never going to change this until it becomes corruptible point where it causes damage. And as long as it's not causing no damage, they're going to continue to do it. I mean, I go think about Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is a prime example of how the AAU game took a kid, already was talented enough, but they put him on the AAU circuit, and everybody said, oh, man, he's great. AAU did that for him. You think he had the talent before he played? He was still a good basketball player. It just exposed him on a spotlight stage and allowed him to get noticed. And when he got noticed, Kentucky came in, and everybody said, man, where was this kid at last week? He was the same player he was last week before. He just got a chance to get put on the spotlight stage. And then when he got on the spotlight stage, the corporations came in. And then they made sure he didn't transfer from his high school. And they came in and made that school a corporate school. They took care of, and they put that team on national television. And that team has never been on national television. They embarrassed them on national television. That was the worst thing they could have done to that boy. But they put him on national television because they wanted to expose this to talent. And this is the corporate greed, I call it, of what happened and how we exploit our kids and put our kids. But the kid's in the NBA. He's making money, so everybody figured it's okay. But if he would have been a failure, what would they would have said, man? They would have just we rushed that kid. That kid wasn't ready. Nobody was protecting him. His family didn't do this. And he would have got bombarded with all these negative. Well, I can't even. I won't even comment about what would have happened. So this is how. I mean, I guess, like I said, we can go back and forth and say and AAU has a place, and everybody forget what AAU was really started for. It was actually meant for players who were not on their high school team to give them an opportunity to play in the summertime, in the springtime, in the winter when the high schools were playing, and they took AAU and it went to traveling teams so they can put these all-star teams together so they can be recruited, and it took a life of its own. And once it took that life, it became what it is today, greater than. And as long as the college coaches are buying into it and the corporations putting their money into it, it's never going to stop. It's never going to stop. It's unfortunate. I think they should put some legal boundaries about who can coach, who should be coaching, and they're trying to do certain things because everybody that comes into this business or to this game, they're coming into it with an agenda, whether it's to help kids or to help themselves. They're coming in with a hidden agenda or an agenda that's out there. They're not doing it all the time for the right reasons of saying, I want to help some kids get recruited. And I think about that was the whole reason why I started AAU back when I did AAU, and me and Coach London did it back in the day. I was just trying to get my little cousin recruited. And it went from being my cousin recruited to now the Mac Irvin Fire. And, I mean, I think Nick and Mike and them are doing an outstanding job of what we took, where we started years ago and made it a conglomerate AAU program, but that was never what I intended to do. I was never intended to try to be this conglomerate program. I just wanted to get some kids that I knew that did not have exposure in smaller high schools some national attention.
Right. So, and I'm not saying this is all bad either, because I think a lot of positives comes out of it. But I think people just need to be educated. You know what I mean, and exposed to the truth about the good and the bad, and have an outlet to just express that. I think if we can just do that, it's gonna make things that much better. Because then you have these kids. It's almost like, I use this example. It's probably a bad example, but I'll use it anyway. How many of you guys ever watched American Idol? You guys have watched American Idol, and you know how the first week or two they have these people on there singing, and it's just people just laughing at them, and it's like, how did they get on this show? And it's just a setup to draw people in to watch the show, and as the show winds down, then the people that are really talented get a chance to showcase their skills. So I think sometimes these leagues are set up the same way. You go into it and you're like, man, you paying for your kid to play? You should put your kid in the YMCA league. And, you're traveling all over the place, spending money, staying in hotels. And a lot of times the parents think that their kids are really going to, be that great as a player. When sometimes you can tell when kids are young, hey, you probably need to hit the books a little bit more harder. Don't get caught up in sports because that's just not your thing, and it's okay. It ain't a bad thing, but some of these parents get so caught up and they want their kids to be the next whoever so bad, and I think they're living through their kids, and that's what the problem is, and that destroys the kid down in the end, because this kid is being pushed. And I don't care how hard they do it or how hard they try, it's not going to materialize, because everybody's not cut out to be a professional athlete. That's a tough thing. It's only 2% of people that are going to make that in all sports combined. And that's not the NBA, because the percentage goes down when you talk about the NBA. It's only 300-some players in the whole league. Half of them are coming from across the world now. So we got to be realistic. We have to be realistic in what's going on. And parents, don't set your kids up. That's what we're trying to prevent. Don't set your kids up. If they got the talent, try to get them the experience and exposure, but don't set them up.
Yeah. Irv, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, you said you did coach the AAU team. How much access did parents have to you, and how was it dealing with the parents?
When I started years ago, that was the only way that I could get. I get without trying to go back into my history with it. When I started AAU, it was no AAU team in Chicago. The only AAU team that was started with me, it was Coach London and myself and Mr. Irvin. We started up Team Chicago. So the only way I was going to get the kids out of Chicago back in 1992, I had to have parental involvement, because the high school coaches used to control the kids in the summertime. So what I did was I drew up a letter, and I had the parents sign that your son was playing with Team Chicago, A, B, and C. This is what the events we're going to. And we were fortunate that the parents didn't have to pay money. Now, we did out of pocket. Our first 2 trips out, we did out of pocket. Nike came in the third year, and then that's when Nike came in and gave us money. But to answer the question, I got all parental involvement. But it was parental involvement from signatures. They didn't come out to the games, and they didn't travel with us. I just did it because I needed parental involvement. Because when the high school coaches tried to get the kids, tried to scare the kids by, and I won't say no names because I will keep that relevant, but a couple of high school coaches tried to scare the kids by telling them, if you go, you're not going to be on the team when you come back to Chicago. And I knew, being smarter than that you need this player. So if you're going to penalize him and kick him off your high school basketball team because he went out of town with me, then he'll just transfer. So the coach, I called the coach's bluff, and the parent, I told it to the parents, and the parents listened to me, and they called the coach's bluff. But I had all parental consent forms when I first started doing it, and that was the only way I was going to get the kids out of Chicago.
Wow. We got about 5 minutes left, guys, and Irv, man, this is amazing insight. So I'm going to give you a little bit more time, and I want to get Terry asked you a question. What advice do you have for the parents and the players when they're looking for AAU teams? You mentioned some of the good and the bad, but give us some of your advice, man, after your vast experience, because you just mentioned you've been in this thing since '92, man. So we definitely want to hear what you have to say.
I mean, personally, what I say what the parents should look for is a program that's not trying to sell themselves as coaches. That's really got the kids' best interests at heart, and a program that's going to actually help the kid become a better person, player. It's just all around everything. Because the easiest thing what happens with anything with coaches, people keep forgetting what our job is what the word coach means. We are there to help kids become better at everything, not just basketball or not just with their talent. We're here to help them grow as people, as men. And if we're not going to help them grow as men, we're going to let their character be horrible, but we're going to deal with them just because they got good talent. They can help me win some ball games, or they can help me get a Nike shoe on my team's feet. Then I haven't taught this kid anything, and I shouldn't be in this kid's life. So I think you should look at the character of the coach. What is his background? What is he trying to accomplish? And look at the kids he's dealt with. Did he be positive influence in these kids' life, or was he a negative influence? Was he just letting these kids play because he wanted to win and he wanted a shoe contract, or was he actually trying to help these kids become better young men so when they do get an opportunity to go to college, they can be enhanced with the high school coach? Because I know as a high school coach, my job is I always try to instruct my kids to become better people. Forget about basketball. Become a better person. And if you're a good person, and if you can learn in class, you'll be an intelligent basketball player. Plus, you'll be a good kid to teach beyond that. And you got to be coachable, you got to be teachable, and you got to be willing to learn and get better. And I think that's what you look for in the AAU coach.
That's amazing, man. Listen, Terry said a lot of stuff about our guests, but Irv has been my man for years, and I've seen him. This man has touched many players' lives. He's touched many coaches' lives, and his experience in AAU is priceless. So, man, just it's so vast. This whole subject is so big, guys. Terry, we got about 3 minutes left. Actually, about 2 minutes left. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and wrap up, and then Lance, you follow right after Terry.
Y'all gonna have to do a part 3. Y'all know that, right?
What you say?
He said we're going to have to do a part 3. We know that. Well, as long as we're reaching people and somebody's getting something out of it, we can do a part 10 because we have the kids' best interests at hand. We really do, and that's why we do this. And we were once young athletes too, and we could have benefited from some of this information, some of this wisdom. And so, that's why we do it, to make sure that people are informed, and that they have information so they can make better decisions when that time comes. So I'll pass it over to Lance.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on there. A lot of great information, valuable, and I think a lot of people can use that information because that experience is, you can't beat that. But what's interesting, we talked a lot about basketball, but as we move forward, I think, like Eric was saying earlier, AAU is starting to, really starting to move into football. If you watch football and some of the camps they're having in the summertime, it's almost turned into basketball where it's almost a priority. You have to compete at these camps to get your name out there. So again, it's to me, AAU it's an opportunity for kids to participate, to get their name out there, which is important because hopefully they can get to college and get that education. But at the same time, again, I can't emphasize enough that, there's a lot of people making money off this. And, I hope they actually take that money and put it back into the kids' program and do what's best for the kids. So that's just a great program, and that's how I'll wrap it up.
All right, awesome. You know what? Our guest said it best. Be on the lookout for part 3 next week. And on that note, Herb, thank you very much for joining us, man. Man, keep doing the great things that you're doing. Lance and Terry, thank you for all that you guys do. And hey, be on the lookout next week. AAU Springtime Ups and Downs, part 3. We'll have more guests, and please be ready to call in. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for joining us on the Life's Twist Show. When you have a chance, please check out our website at www.everybody.com.
Yeah, I'm here.
See all of the things that we'll be doing over the next several weeks. In the meantime, have a great week, and we'll see you soon.
Is it on now?
Hello.
Napa know-how. A Napa guy knows more isn't always better, unless we're talking about full-size vans. These beasts do more than get you from A to B. They have so much space a man can live in it. With shag carpeting, waterbed, and a sweet lava lamp, these mobile abodes have all the comforts of home. With quality parts and plenty of Napa know-how, you can keep the original tiny house running longer, stronger. That's Napa know-how. Napa know-how.
Welcome to Staples.
Staples guy, I just got to town and I need a presentation printed for a big meeting tomorrow.
Well, Staples has everything you need to print, scan, and fax.
Great. Oh, just got a text. The home office made changes to the presentation.
No problem. You can access your files from a USB, email, or the cloud.
And the meeting isn't tomorrow, now it's today.
Our machines are self-service, so there's no waiting.
And it's not here. Now it's in Ebensburg.
I hear it's lovely this time of year.
Print, scan, fax, and copy at Staples. Your office away from home. 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 Office away from home.